Hey y'all, it's Dawn, and I'm so glad you're back. I've got another fun, budget-friendly DIY video for you today. This is another collab, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Now for the first DIY. To start, I wanted to let y'all know, if you aren't looking for stuff on Marketplace, you are really missing out. Last week I responded to a post. It was 7 solid wood shutters for 30 bucks. I couldn't believe it. I've been looking for shutters, but everybody wants an arm and a leg for them. I went to pick them up, not really sure what I'd got myself into. And believe me, I was surprised. The shutters were actually in good enough shape to be put on a house, but nah, that's not what I'm going to do with them. The first thing I did was pull out the pressure washer to remove as much of the dirt, spider webs, and peeling paint as I could, because I did not want to have to sand these shutters. I used some blue paint that Plaid had sent me when I became a Plaid ambassador, and painted the top part and down 3 of the slats on the shutter. Do you know where I'm going with this? Next, it was time for the red. I painted every other slat with the red. And guess what color I used next? If you guessed white, you are correct. I wanted to create a flag for the 4th of July on one side of the shutter. I painted the remaining slats and both sides with the white and left everything to dry overnight. The next morning, and when I say morning, I'm talking 7:30 in the morning, I used a stencil and traced stars on the blue section. I then painted all the stars in with white. I did this because I never have any luck stenciling. It always seems to bleed through. I let the stars dry for a couple of hours. Now it's time to de-stress. You know I can't leave it stark white and plain. That's boring. I use my orbital sander to distress the shutter in places. I then used some ebony stain to distress it even more. I kind of used the dry brush method to apply the stain. I lightly painted the stain on and then rubbed it off with a rag. This gave the colors more of an aged appearance, which was the look I'm going for. And this is how the first side turned out. Very rustic farmhouse. I absolutely love it. Now, what am I going to do to the other side? I had already spray painted the other side white with one thing in mind, but of course, like I do, I changed my mind. I wanted this side to be rustic too. Using my sander, I removed some of the paint in different areas. I just kept sanding until I liked the way it was starting to look. I then used the same ebony stain I used on the other side to age this side also. I wanted this side to be even more worn, aged, and rustic. So I used more of the stain and let it sit a little longer. Somewhere in here, you will see me start swinging like a crazy woman. There was a bee that wouldn't leave me alone. I think I finally got him on the second swing because I didn't hear from him again. I finished this just in time. It's beginning to rain, so I left the shutter on the back porch so the stain could dry. And just look at how stinking beautiful the 4th of July side turned out. It's perfect, I think. Let me know in the comments what you think. And look at this side. Tell me that this doesn't look like it came out of an old farmhouse. I love it. I love both of them. Let me know in the comments which side you like the best. Today's video is part of the Between Seasons Craft for Both collab hosted by Teresa B. DIY. You will find a link to her channel and a link to the playlist in the description. There are so many amazing crafters on this playlist, you will definitely want to check them out. Now for DIY number 2. I had this idea to make some seasonal reversible decor for the old shutter. I used these 4.5-inch wood squares I got from Dollar Tree almost a year ago. I haven't been able to find them since, and these are the last ones I had on hand. I took them outside to spray paint them with Rust-Oleum flat white paint. I got most of them painted and the can ran out. Just my luck. I then brought them all back inside and thought I would paint them with the apple barrel white paint I had gotten from Plaid when I became a Plaid ambassador. Guess what happened? No, seriously, guess what happened? I ran out of that paint too. I don't think it was meant for me to complete this DIY. I finally decided to use Waverly white chalk paint. I had a full 16-ounce bottle of it, so I thought it shouldn't run out. I painted all 12 tiles front and back with the Waverly paint. I'm not going to bore you with all the painting I had to do. Once the Waverly paint was dry, I decided to go ahead and distress the squares. If you know me, if it's not distressed, it's not Farmhouse. I used Waverly Elephant Gray and a fan brush to distress both the front and the back of the squares. I use a fan brush on smaller projects because I have more control over where the paint is going than I do with a chippy brush. If you would like to help support my channel and help me continue to make DIYs for you, please consider buying me a coffee. All the information is in the description box below. Now back to the DIYs. Once the paint had dried, I applied a layer of Mod Podge to both the front and the back of the squares. I did this so the transfer tape wouldn't peel up the paint. I don't know why, but I've been having a problem with that here lately. I let the Mod Podge dry completely before moving on. I used my Cricut and cut out the letters to spell summer, fall, winter, spring, and welcome. The font I used was Green Farm to cut everything out. I'm not sure where I got this font from, but it was a free font from somewhere because I do not pay for fonts. I'll leave a link in the description for the file I created for any Cricut users who may want to try this project. I applied the letters for summer and winter to the first set of squares, so it would be reversible. I then applied spring and fall to the other set of squares. Since fall is shorter, I added a pumpkin and a leaf to the top and bottom just so I didn't have any blank squares. Now, if you don't have a Cricut or a cutting machine, you can use stick-on letters from Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walmart, or even Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below for some stick-on letters from Amazon that would work for this project. Next, I used my drill and drilled holes at the top and bottom of the squares. The two bottom squares, I only drilled a top hole. The final step was to attach all the squares in order. Oh boy, with the day I'm having, this is gonna be fun. I used a ruler to measure approximately 1 inch from the first square to the second square. I also reversed the knots on each square. I hope this makes sense. Just watch what I'm doing. I tied a knot on the first square, measured down, cut my twine, measured down 1 inch, and tied another knot. I did this to all the squares until I reached the end. I did the same thing with the other set of seasons. I like how it turned out. I'm not really sure if I like how it looks on my shutter though. I may just add a wreath to my shutter and be done. And then I can use these little squares and hang them with a wreath. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Happy crafting!